Okay, so hi everyone, welcome to our GCSE Maths trial session. Can you let me know in the Q&A if you can hear me and see my screen? So on my screen, you should be able to see nth term of a sequence and the opening slide for our presentation today. Okay, so just 30 seconds. Let me know in the Q&A if you can hear me and see my screen. We'll make a start in 1 minute now. Okay, we will make a start now. So welcome everyone to our GCSE Maths trial session. In today's lesson, we're going to be looking at working out the nth term of a sequence. So the agenda for today's lesson, we will firstly be looking at working out the nth term of a linear sequence. Then we will be looking at working out the nth term of a quadratic sequence. And then we will be looking at some exam questions from real past papers. Okay. So first of all, just a question for all of you. The nth term of a sequence is the topic we're looking at today. Now, what do you guys think the nth term of a sequence actually means? What do you think we're trying to find out here? Okay, in your own words, explain what you guys think the nth term of a sequence means. What does it mean to you? You can feel free to type your answers in the Q&A. So what does the nth term of a sequence mean to you? Just 30 seconds. Okay, so we're getting some answers in. So yeah, so you're all on the right track. So the nth term of a sequence literally means what you're doing to get from term to term of the sequence. Okay, so how do you get from one number to another number? What formula you're using? Someone said formula, so that's what we're using. So what formula you're using to get from term to term in the sequence? Okay, so if we begin now, why do we use the nth term? First of all, if we know the nth term of a sequence, it is possible to work out any number in the sequence. So the nth term is just like a formula. It's a formula you use to get from one term to another. Okay, so you use the formula to get from term to term. Now, the term is just the number in the sequence, and you just use it to work out the rest of your sequence. We have some easy sequences, for example, 1, 2, 3, and 4. You know that the next few numbers are going to be 5, 6, and 7. But what is the actual nth term of the sequence? That's what we're going to be looking at in today's lesson. So someone said, can you repeat the definition? So basically, the nth term is just a formula which you use to get from term to term and work out the other numbers in a sequence. is just a formula which you use to work out numbers in a sequence. So that's the definition. So the nth term is a formula used to work out numbers in that sequence. Okay. So all you need to know is substitution. Now, substitution is a really key skill for the nth term. You need to know how to substitute in the value. So if we have a look, let's say we had n and we had to add 1. Okay, so this is our formula, n add 1. And we're given that n is equal to 2. All you do is you substitute 2 in the place of n. That's all you do. So then you will be given with 2 plus 1, and that will give you 3. That's when n is 2. Okay, you might be asked 3n. Okay, when n is 2. All you need to know is how to substitute that 2 in the place of n. So if n is equal to 2, you just replace the n in the formula with 2. And when they're next to each other, you're multiplying. So this will be 3 multiplied by 2, and that will be 6. So as you can see, substitution is a really key skill. Now, in a linear sequence, you will have an nth term as an example of something like this, 3n plus 1. Okay, so that's an example of an nth term of a sequence. And let's say that n is 2. Let's say n is 2. How would we work out the answer to this? Well, all you would do is you would just substitute n is 2 into the formula. So we know that this n is 2. So we just replace the n with the 2. 3 multiplied by 2 is 6. Add 1 is 7. Okay. Now, when we're working out the nth term, the n stands for something. N is for number. Okay, it's called the nth term. The n is the number. Okay, so 3n plus 1, n is the number. N is the position of the number you're trying to find. Okay, so let's say we have this sequence 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. As you can see, if we were asked to work out the 6th term in the sequence, you would just substitute in 6. So work out the nth term and then substitute in 6. Okay, I'm just introducing it here. I've not gone into much detail yet. Okay, so n stands for the number of the term. Okay, for example, let's say the nth term of a sequence was 5n minus 3. And you were asked, what is the 100th term in the sequence? Remember, n just stands for number. Okay, so n just stands for number. Okay, so this means number, or you could say it's the position of the number. So n is the position of the number. We have the nth term in front of us, which is 5n minus 3. Okay, now let's say we wanted to work out the the 100th term of the sequence. We would just substitute in 100 in the place of n, because n is the position of the number. We're trying to work out the 100th position in the sequence. So all you would do is 5, replace the n with 100, and you would minus 3. So 5 multiplied by 100 is 500, and then you would subtract 3, which is 497. Okay, so when we're working out the term of the position, all you do is you substitute in the number. In this case, we're trying to work out the 100th term in the sequence. N is the position of the number. All we have to do is substitute in 100 in the place of n. Okay. I have one question for you guys to have a go at. What is the 17th term in the sequence 2n plus n? Okay. Work it out, type your answer in the Q&A. If you have any questions, please let me know. So this is for you guys to test your understanding. What is the 17th term in the sequence 2n plus n? And you can't use a calculator. Sorry about that. So just a question for you, just 1 minute quickly. What is the sequence 17th term in the sequence 2n plus n? Okay, type your answer in the Q&A. If you have any questions, please let me know. Okay, 30 more seconds before I go through the answers. If you have any questions, you can type them in the Q&A and I'll send back an answer. Okay, so we're getting some different answers here. Okay, 10 more seconds before I go through the answers. Okay, I'm going to go through the answers now. So what is the 17th term in the sequence 2n plus n? So remember, n is the position of the number. We have two n's. Remember, n is the position of the number. Okay. Now it says the 17th term. So that it's asking you for the 17th position. So all you have to do here is you need to substitute in 17 in the place of n. And what's different in this question is that we have two n's. So 2, 17 plus 17. Now 2 multiplied by 17 is going to give you an answer of 34. Okay, and then you're adding 17 onto it. Okay, if you can't do that in your head, you can work out 34 at 17. 34 at 20 is 54, and then you subtract 3 from it, and that will get you 51. So the 17th term in this sequence is 51. So as you can see, we're working out the 17th position. Because it's 2n plus n is the position of the number, and we're trying to work out the 17th position of the number. And all we have to do is substitute 17 in the place of n. So as you can see over here, we're just applying the substitution skill. another type. Now, over here, we're applying a different skill, and that's to do with algebraic equations. You might be asked, is the number 14 in the sequence 4n plus 2? Okay, so 4n plus 2. This is our sequence. Remember, n is the position of the number. But in this case, we're not asked to work out the position. We're not given the position. We're given the final result. Is the number 14? So we're given the final result. We're not given the position. Okay. So 4n plus 2, that should equal 14 because we're asked, is that number in this sequence? So we're given the final result, but we're not given the position. The position of the number is what we need to find out. Okay, so this is a bit of algebra over here. All we need to do over here is to make n equal to a number. Okay, so we need to get n on one side and we need to get the number on the other. So 4n plus 2. To get rid of the 2, we do the opposite. So we subtract 2 from both sides. Okay, because we're adding 2 on this side. To get rid of it, to make it 0, we need to subtract 2. If we're subtracting 2 from this side, we will need to subtract 2 from this side. Okay, so now we have 4n, we've got rid of the 2, and that's equal to 14 subtract 2, which is 12. Now 4n is being multiplied. To get rid of the 4, we need to divide it. Remember, we always do the opposite. So we divide it by 4, and we divide 4 by both sides. 12 divided by 4 is equal to 3. N is by itself now. N is equal to 3. Okay. N has given us a whole number. Because it has given us a whole number, it is true. It is in the sequence. Okay. It's a whole number, so it is true. Yes, it is in the sequence of 4n plus 2. So all we're doing over here is we're making it equal to the number. We're getting asked, is the number 14 in that sequence, 4n plus 2? Okay, and what we're doing here is we're just making it equal to it. 4n plus 2 is the sequence, and we're getting asked, is 14 in that sequence? We're not asked the position of the number, we need to work that out. So we do 4n plus 2, we make it equal to 14. And we just rearrange this formula that we have into n is equal to a number. That's all we have to do. We just need to get into this form, n is equal to a number. And if it's a whole number, it's in the sequence. But if it's not a whole number, then it's not in the sequence. Okay. I have a question for you guys to have a go at. Is the number 21 in the sequence 3n minus 2? Have a go at it. I'll give you 1 minute and type your answer in the Q&A. If you have any questions, please send them at me in the Q&A and I'll give you a response back. Okay, so is the number 21 in the sequence 3n minus 2? Okay, 30 seconds. What do you guys think? Okay, so we got a no. We got another no. 10 more seconds for anyone else finishing off. Okay, so you guys are getting decimals, so it is false. Let's have a look now. So we're getting asked if 3n plus 2 is the formula, and we're asked if 21 is in this sequence. So we're not given the position of the number, so we need to make it equal to 21. So 3n minus 2, and we make that equal to 21. Okay, we need to rearrange this formula to get n by itself. So if we're subtracting 2, to get rid of the negative 2, we need to add 2. Remember, always do the opposite. Add 2 to both sides. 3n is therefore equal to 21 add 2, which is 23. You divide by 3, you divide by 3, and you can't do that. N will be equal to 23 over 3, and that will give you a decimal of 7.3 reoccurring. Okay, so if it doesn't give you a whole number, then it's false. Just write a little explanation. Is it true or false? It's false because not a whole number. Okay, so as you can see over here, we're just applying algebraic equations in this case. Okay, so that's the first part of the lesson. We were looking at this skill. And now I have this question which came up on your question pack. We've emailed you the question pack as part of our pre-course material and the PowerPoint. So I'm just going to give you guys this question to have a go at, and you can have a go at this question at home, just because I want to fit everything in today to today's lesson. Okay, we will send you the solutions to the question pack after the lesson, along with the lesson recording and some quizzes. Okay, so question 1, have a go at it. It's 2 marks. I'm going to give you 1 minute. Type your answer in the Q&A. And if you have any questions, please let me know. So just 1 minute, have a go at this question. This one is your first question on your question pack. Okay, I'm going to give you guys 30 seconds before I go through the answers. Okay, I'm going to go through the answers now. We've got some brilliant answers in the Q&A. So the nth term of a sequence is 4n plus 3. Find the first two terms of this sequence. So the first two terms, remember these are the position, is telling you the position of the first position and the second position. So all you have to do is substitute in 1 and 2 in the place of n. So 4, 1 plus 3, 4 times 1 is 4, add 3 is 7. So the first one 7, and then the second position is 4, 2 plus 3, 4 times 2 is 8, add 3 is 11. So you have 7 and 11. Okay, and then you're asked, is 35 a term in this sequence? You must show how you get your answer. So we have the nth term over here, 4n plus 3, and you're asked if this number is in your sequence. Whenever you're asked if a number is in your sequence, then you have to make it equal to that number. So you make it equal to 35. Get n by itself. So we're adding 3 on this side. So you're going to do the opposite, subtract 3 from both sides to get that 4n is equal. You divide by 4 on both sides because you're multiplying it, and you get that n is 32 divided by 4, which is 8. Okay, so n is 8. It's a whole number, so it's a whole number. Therefore, it's going to be true. Okay, and you will get 1 mark for there, 1 mark here. Okay, now someone's working out. They made a slight error. 4n plus 3 is equal to 35. Remember, when you're adding on this side, you need to subtract to get rid of it. Because you're at positive 3, to get rid of positive 3, you need to subtract 3 to bring it back to 0. So if you're subtracting 3, you need to remember you do the opposite each time. You subtract 3 from both sides. I think you accidentally added 3 and got 38. Okay, very common error, don't worry. But remember, you do the opposite each time. Okay, now this question, I'm just, if we have time at the end, I'll come back to this question. But you have this question with you in your question pack, which we sent out by email yesterday. And we will send out the solutions. If you have any problems with this question, please let me know. Okay, now we're going to move on to finding the nth term of a linear sequence. Okay, now these are just steps over here which you may choose to follow. I'm not going to read through the steps. I'm going to go straight into an example. Okay, I'll come back to the steps to explain them. Okay, so it says here are the first 5 terms of a sequence. Find an expression in terms of n for the nth term of this sequence. Okay, so 9, 14, 19, 24, and 29. This is our sequence. We need to find the formula of this sequence. Okay, and step 1 is you need to work out the difference between each number. Okay, so 9 to get to 14, you need to add 5. 14 to get to 19, you need to add 5. 19 to get to 24, you need to add 5, and 24 to get to 29, you need to add 5. Okay. Now, as you can see, the difference is plus 5 each time. It's the same each time. So that tells you that this is a linear sequence. And a really important point here is that a linear sequence has only one difference, which is the same each time. Okay, so a linear sequence has one difference, which is the same each time. Okay, now, so as you can see, it's plus 5, plus 5, plus 5, and plus 5. Okay, this plus 5 is your coefficient of n. So as you know, nth term always has an n in it. Okay, now this plus 5 is the coefficient of n. Now coefficient means the number before n. So coefficient of n just means the number before n. Okay, so if we're adding 5, our coefficient of n, the number is before n, is going to be 5n. Okay, now because we're adding 5, we're going to write down the 5 times table on the top of the sequence. So positive 5, positive 10, positive 15, positive 20, positive 25. So we've just written down the sequence at the top. Okay, now how do we get from the times table, the 5 times table, to the sequence? So this is our sequence. We need to work out how to get from the 5 times table to our sequence. So 5 to get to 9, we need to add 4. 10 to get to 14, we need to add 4. 15 to get to 19, we need to add 4. 20 to get to 24, we need to add 4. 25 to get to 29, we need to add 4. So each time we're adding 4. So 5n, we just add 4. And that's our answer. We've worked out the nth term of the sequence, which is 5n add 4. Okay, so as you can see over here, all we're doing, if I go back to the steps, you find the difference between each term in the sequence. If it's a linear sequence, the difference will be the same each time. The difference is now the coefficient of n. Okay, so the difference which you've worked out, that will be the number before the n. Then you write down the times table for the difference on top of your sequence. And then you compare the timetable to your sequence and you add it to your nth term. So in this case, our difference was plus 5. If it was plus 2, for example, it will be 2n plus 4. If it was plus 10, for example, it will be 10n. If it was 2n, if it was adding 2 each time, then we would write down the positive 2 times table at the top. If it was adding 10 each time, we would write down the positive 10 times table each time. If it was subtracting 2 each time, we would write down the negative 2 times table on the top each time. Okay, so I'm going to go through another example over here. So here are the first 5 terms of the sequence. We're working out the nth term of the sequence. So 25, 22, 19, 16, and 13. Step 1, work out the difference. Subtract 3, subtract 3, subtract 3, and subtract 3. Okay, the difference is now the coefficient of n, so the number before the n. So it's going to be minus 3n. Now, because we're subtracting 3 each time, we write down the negative 3 times table at the top. So negative 3, negative 6, negative 9, negative 12, and negative 15. Now we compare the times table to our sequence. So what do you have to do to get from -3 to 25? Well, you need to add 28. What do we need to do to get from -6 to 22? We need to add 28. -9 to 19, again, add 28. And as you can see, each time you will have to add 28. So you just add that to this nth term. So our nth term is -3n plus 28. Now to check your answer, you can substitute in 1, 2, and 3 in the place of n, and you should get 25, 22, and 19. That's a way of checking your answer. Okay. Now, this question over here is a good one for you guys to have a go at home. I'm going to give you question 4. Okay, have a go at this. I'll give you just over 1 minute and then we will go through the answers. If you're struggling, please let me know. If you have any questions, also let me know. So we're given 4 terms in the arithmetic sequence and you need to write down the nth term for the sequence. Okay, work out, type your answer in the Q&A. If you're struggling, please let me know. If you have any questions, please let me know. You will be receiving the recording to this lesson. So if you have any questions, you can go back to the recording and you can listen to my explanation again. Okay, 45 seconds left. If you're struggling, please let me know. Okay, 30 seconds left. Okay, I'm going to go through the answers now. So we need to work out the nth term for this sequence. So we have 4, 11, 18, and 25. Step 1, we work out the difference. So 4 to get to 11, we're adding 7. 11 to get to 18, we're adding 7. 18 to get to 25, we're adding 7. So as you can see, we're adding 7 each time. So our coefficient of n, the number before n, is going to be 7. So we're going to have 7n. And because we're adding 7, we're going to write down the positive 7 times table at the top. So 7, 14, 21, and 28. Now we're going to compare how we get from the 7 times table to our sequence. So 7 to get to 4, we subtract 3, 14 to get to 11, we subtract 3, 21 to get to 18, we subtract 3, 28 to get to 25, we subtract 3. Okay, so our final answer is going to be 7n subtract 3. To check our answer, what we can do is we can substitute in 1 in the place of n, we should get 4. If we substitute in 2 in the place of n, we should get 11. If we substitute in 3 in the place of n, we should get 18, and so on. Okay? And if you want to practice this, you have many questions in your exam question pack, which we've emailed you out. Okay? Now, we're going to finish off with finding the nth term of a quadratic sequence, and then I'm going to explain our summer GCSE course, which will run for 2 months, 10 weeks at the end of the lesson. Okay, so I'll come back to this. Now, quadratic sequences, the word quadratic means squared. You know, if anything is a quadratic, it will have a squared in it. So x squared is a quadratic because it has a squared in. Okay, so if we run through our sequence now, these quadratic questions in an exam, they will be typically worth approximately 4 or 5 marks in an exam. Okay, so 5, 11, 19, 29, and 41. Okay, step 1 is you work out the difference. Okay, so 5 to get to 11, you're adding 6. 11 to get to 19, you're adding 8. 19 to get to 29, you're adding 10. And 29 to get to 41, you're adding 12. Okay, so we've worked out our first difference. Now, because this is a quadratic sequence will have 2 differences. Okay, it will have 2 differences. So then you have to work out the second difference. 6 to get to 8, you have to add 2. 8 to get to 10, you have to add 2. 10 to get to 12, you have to add 2. Now, you should realize that the second difference is the same each time. Okay, as you can see, it's plus 2 every time. Now, a quadratic sequence will have it will start with n squared. So we've been working on the nth term for a linear sequence of n, and we've seen, for example, it will be 3n plus 1, a sequence. Now a quadratic sequence will have a squared in it. Okay, so it will be in this format: n squared plus n plus a number. Okay, that will be the typical format of a quadratic nth term. Now the second difference that we've worked out, we need to half it because it's a quadratic. So we need to half plus 2. So we need to divide the secondary difference by 2. So secondary difference, we will need to divide it by 2. In this case, the secondary difference is 2. We will divide it by 2 to get n squared. Sorry, I've skipped a step there. 2 divided by 2 is 1, and that is now the coefficient of n squared. Okay, so remember, n squared is the first term in our quadratic sequence. The coefficient, which means the number before n squared, is 1. Okay, so we have 1n squared. Now let's substitute the first 5 numbers in the place of n. So let's so we have the first position, we have the second position, we have the third position, and we have the fourth position and the fifth position. Now let's work out the sequence of 1n squared. So if we substitute in 1 in the place of n squared, that will give us 1. If we substituted in 2 in the place of n squared, that would give us 4. If we substituted in 3 in the place of n squared, it will give us 9. If we substituted in 4 in the place of n squared, it will give us 16. And then if we substituted in 5, it will give us 25. So this is the sequence of 1n squared. As you can see, we're just substituting in the positions of the number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. So the first position of the sequence is 1, the second position is 4, the third position is 9, the fourth position is 16, and the fifth position is 25. Okay, now you write down your sequence. So our sequence is what we write down next. Our sequence is 5, 11, 19, 29, and 41. That's our sequence. Now you need to compare how you get from your 1n squared to our sequence. So how do you get from 1 to 5? You add 4. 4 to 11, you add 7. 9 to 19, you add 10. 16 to 29, you add 13. Okay, now what we're developing here is our own sequence. So we start off with 4, 7, 10, and 13. Now we can predict what the next number is going to be because, as you can see, each time we're adding 3. So we know the next number is going to be 16. Okay. So as you can see over here, we've developed ourselves our own linear sequence, which has one difference. So we have n squared there, 1n squared, which is just n squared, and we're just going to work out the nth term of this linear sequence now. So we're adding 3 each time, so it's going to be 3n, and because we're adding 3, we're just going to put down the 3 times table at the top, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and compare how we get from the 3 times table to our sequence. Each time we add 1. Okay, so we just add 1 there. So we have 3n add 1, and we have n squared over here. So our final sequence is going to be n squared plus 3n plus 1. And that would be worth a 4 marker in an exam. Okay. Now, these questions, I'm just going to quickly run through the method of working out over here. First, you find the difference between the sequence. Okay. Then you find the second difference between the sequence. A quadratic sequence has 2 differences. Remember that. So you work out the first difference and then you work out the second difference. Then you divide the second difference by 2. And this will give you the coefficient of n squared. Okay, so the second difference which you've worked out, you will have to divide it by 2. Okay, and that will give you the coefficient of n squared, which is the first part of your nth term. Okay, now you write down the an squared sequence. So let's say our secondary difference was 4. We would divide it by 2 to get 2, and that's the coefficient of the coefficient is the number before n squared. So it will start off with 2n squared. Now you write down the sequence of 2n squared. Okay, so it will be 2, then you substitute in 2 in the place of n. 2 squared is 4 times 2 is 8. Then you substitute in 3 in the place of n. 3 squared is 9 times by 2 is 18, and so on. So you get your sequence, and then you compare it to the 2n squared sequence. And then you get a difference each time, and that will give you a linear sequence. And then finally you work out the nth term of your linear sequence and then you add the coefficient of n squared on. I'm going to run through it again. If it's a bit difficult. It is a bit difficult at once, but if you keep practicing, it will come into your head. So you work out the first difference. So you work out the first difference here. You can see it's add 6, add 8, add 10, add 12. Then, as you can see, your first difference isn't the same each time. So you work out the second difference, which is add 2, add 2, add 2. Then you divide the secondary difference by 2. And that will give you your coefficient of n squared. Okay, that will give you your coefficient of squared. In this case, the coefficient of n squared is just 1, so you write down the sequence of 1n squared. Okay, you just substitute in 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 to work out the sequence, and you should get this sequence 1, 4, 9, 16, and 25. Then you write down your sequence underneath it, which is 5, 11, 19, 29, and 41, and then you compare how you get from the 1n squared sequence to your sequence. 4, adding 7, adding 10, adding 13. Now this will form a linear sequence. So we're adding 4, 7, 10, 13, 16. Okay, then the term of this linear sequence, and you will get your answer here. So you just combine the nth term of the linear sequence with your coefficient of n squared. And then you will have your quadratic n term. Okay. Now, someone asked how many marks will this question be worth? This question will be worth approximately 4 marks in an exam. And this question can come up on paper 1, paper 2, or paper 3. Okay. But it's a very common question. It tends to come up on either of the papers, and it tends to come up more than once. So it's a really key skill. Now, if you didn't understand that, we will be sending out the recordings. So if you re-watch this video, you understand it, and you have the exam question packs with you, so you can have a go at some additional questions available. Okay. So unfortunately, we've run out of time. Now, before you guys go, I'm going to explain to you the GCSE summer crash course, which is going to occur this summer, and it's going to run for 10 weeks in July and August. Okay, now as part of this summer crash course, we're covering biology, chemistry, physics, and maths. Okay, and you can choose which subjects you want to attend for. Okay, each week there will be 3 hours of live teaching, live sessions. There will be 3 hours of live sessions, 1.5 hours on the Saturday and 1.5 hours on the Sunday. Okay, they're gonna commence on the 1st of July, and for each lesson you will be provided with the curriculum list, the PowerPoint presentation, topic-based exam questions. You will have access to all the past papers which have happened in the past 5 years, and you will have the live lesson with Q&A link. You will have topic-based notes and the recording for each lesson. We're also providing a personalized learning platform like Google Classroom, like Microsoft Teams, and on that we will set you quizzes. If you have any questions, you can send them us and we can answer them on the learning platform, and we will give you loads of learning resources. Okay, and this is a 10-week course with 3 hours per week. Now, we will set you assignments and learning resources. If you have any questions throughout the week, we can answer them. You can send them on either Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams. You can send them to us and we can send back a reply with an example for your question. Okay, you will have assignments, revision quizzes, revision resources, many learning resources as well. all these bullet points at the top you will get with each lesson. Okay, and the subjects which are included are biology, chemistry, physics, and maths, and you can choose whichever subjects you want to attend. We have a fixed cost, and it's £5 per hour, which is cheaper than many other educational schools out there. Okay, and it's a really good chance of you finishing as much of the curriculum as you can. Okay, we will be covering the vast majority of the curriculum. If you have any specific topics you would like to go through, you can send them over to us and we'll set up that course with you, and you will be able to attend that. Okay, now I have a link to a form which you can fill out if you would like to attend. It's a really good opportunity, so I wouldn't miss it if I were you. Paste this link in the Q&A. Okay, it's a 10-week course as well. It will run through the summer and you will have access to pretty much everything. So as I said, our prices are £500. Okay, we do 3 hours in a week of live teaching, and then you will have the whole platform to you for the full 10 weeks. All the access to the revision resources for all the 10 weeks of the course, and then if you have any questions, you can send them to us. So if we look at the form, I've just opened the form in a new tab over here. This is the form. You will first have to fill out your personal details, and then you will have to click through the next few pages. Now, the next pages, they tell you, so first is your personal details, then it will go to your course booking, which subjects you would like to join. We have an option of 4 subjects: biology, chemistry, physics, or maths. And then we have the exam board you're following. And then section 3 is the payment. So depending on which 4 subjects, which subjects you have chosen, you can pay relating to that. And then on the final page is if you have any questions. Once you've enrolled into the course, we will send out the course material and any pre-information you need to know before the course. We will set up your account on our personalized learning platform, and then we will make sure you guys are ready before the first day of the course. Okay, I pasted the link to the form in the Q&A. If you're interested, please book, and if you have any particular topics, we can cover them as well. Okay, as I said, our costs are really low compared to other educational online teaching, which has been going on. And we're providing a lot of resources as well based on the subject. So depending on your needs, you can book the subject or subjects you would like to attend, and then we will send out your course material. If you have any questions, you can let me know now in the Q&A. I will stay on for another 5 minutes if anyone has any questions. If you would like to book the course, I've pasted the link in the Q&A to a form which you can fill out with your details, and then I hopefully look to you guys attending the summer course. If you have any questions, please let me know now. We will send out our post-course material after the session, and that will include a revision quiz on the nth term of a quadratic sequence. You will get the solutions to the exam question pack which we've sent out, and you will get the lesson recording. Okay. So as I said, if you're interested, it's the best opportunity to catch up on anything you've missed at school, any doubts you have within your subject. And if you're struggling with any content, it's the best opportunity right now to attend the summer crash course. It will prepare you for your next year in advance as well. If you have any questions, please do let us know in the Q&A. Okay, I'll stay on for another 2 minutes if anyone has any questions. And if you have any questions after that, you can email them over to us. Okay, since no one has any questions, I'm going to leave the meeting now. Thank you everyone for attending, and hope you have a nice day.